Hello everyone, this is Leslie with Color Art. Today we're going to be playing with the new Resin Art tints and some of the other Resin Art colors. They are a dry tint with no shimmer in them. I'm adding a dollop just about a size of a quarter to the bottom of my two little 1 ounce salsa containers here. And I've got my little, basically a taster spoon that measures out exactly an eighth of ounce, especially if you just kind of tap it and it flattens it out. And the goal here is to get an eighth of a teaspoon into about a quarter's worth, and we're going to mix it into a paste. What I found when I was making these is the color was hugging on to the mineral carrier that we mixed it in, because you have to put it in something a little bit longer. And I've been spoiled with the resin art. I mean, the resin art seems like once you get to 1, 1002, 1003, 1004, it's done. So it felt funny to say, hey, you really need to mix these about 15 seconds. And it's easier to mix things in a little paste than it is to try to put the whole eighth of a teaspoon in a full ounce and then you're sitting there trying to beat it down. Eventually it dissolves, but it takes a little bit of time. I found that when I was pouring it over my other iridescent colors, I didn't see it at all when I did that beautiful red piece. But boy, so to speed it up, I'm showing you the 99% alcohol. I just want to let you know to speed it up. 1 drop of 99% alcohol in those little cups will speed it up if that is an issue. But as I was saying, when I was pouring the red raspberry over the top of all those colors, oh, I didn't even see it. So I went ahead and made all 12 colors. And then when I did the tile test, I noticed these little tiny microscopic freckles that were undissolved. So I figured I needed to show you guys the best and quickest way to mix these guys down. We're also going to use in our project some aquamarine, which is a regular resin art. It's a turquoise and a green shimmer. We're using some of the seagrass. I think in my piece it was a little bit yellow. I'll give you a little bit of a heads up. I thought it was a little bit yellow at the beginning, but hey, it was a nice color to play with. But see how fast the regular resin art mixes in. There's something we can condition them with. We precondition the mica and the solvent color. And when I say solvent color, mean yellow, red, blue that makes actual paints. Has been put in these, and the preconditioning material that we use makes them dissolve really quickly. Okay, I'm also going to use some of our Bling It interferences. Now, regular interference mica, we've not done anything to. They're good for any kind of project, whether it's mixed media, scrapbooking, paint pouring. But you have to take the time. Notice that I'm having to fold the resin over so it doesn't over the top of the mica so it doesn't kind of poof up while I'm stirring it. This is that interference violet, and this is some of the interference blue, and I'm just carefully mixing it, and then I'll fill it up the rest of the way. Again, I did the same thing as I did with the tints, put a little bit less resin in there than my full amount's going to be so I can easily mix it up, and then I'll top it off with the rest of the resin. We're working on a 10 by 14 tile, which I'm beginning to lubricate with clear resin. But there were two tiles that actually inspired me to do this. This is the Bahama Mama over the Emerald Forest, Emerald City, and this is the Mermaid and some of that periwinkle. And I just thought it looked so pretty on the tile. That's why we're using the Mermaid in the iridescence, and we're using the Bahama Mama in the tint. So I've just put a tiny bit of lubrication of the clear and I've warmed it. Now, first color I'm putting down is Mermaid. And I'm trying to simulate that water look that Miriam's Nature and Sharon Lindley had done in their video when they were doing the jellyfish challenge. And I thought I could layer colors up and down. That is the interference blue that I'm laying down. And that dark black color on the bottom is actually black. That is the Alumilite black, one dropped mixed in an ounce of resin. This is the seagrass. And I'm just warming it gently. We're not cooking it. We're just keeping everything nice and warm so it's fluid. And I'm swiping it down. I decided after I did this that I really wanted to go a different direction, but um, part of this is also just, constantly experimenting with what happens when we're swiping colors over other colors. That green on the bottom bugged me, so I kind of wanted to blow it up a little bit. But this wasn't the look I was looking for. So I kind of changed my path. You'll see in the next one. This is some of the interference violet. This is that aquamarine, beautiful turquoise. One line of the Lumilite black and a line of the mermaid. And what I did is after warming this, I grabbed it's a silicone tool they use for applying hair color to your hair. But with the silicone, the resin isn't going to stick to it. So you can use these little tools to get different effects or apply the resin. Here, I pushed it up and then I'm letting the color run down. I warmed it again. At this point, I was thinking, should I be putting color in there in that little gap that I'm creating? Because I'm trying to get a watercolor effect. I know I went ahead and warmed that first section again because I think right here, yeah, I added some interference over the top of that first section I'd swiped and decided to continue with the tool and kind of change my direction of where I'd started on the bottom. That's some of the mermaid going over the top of that interference violet. Eventually, I will go to that first part, I promise you. I know I went back there and did it. There was just this point where it hit me, hey, I like the effect of that underwater look using this little tool. There we go. So I'm pushing it up. And at this point, I did decide to put some interference there in the middle. And this is where I grab my tint. This is the Viola. See that beautiful transparent periwinkle color going over the top of the interference violet. A little bit of black, aquamarine, interference blue. Warmed it just a bit. And let the tool do the magic again. I think I decided to put a little bit, looks like that was Viola I put down there, just to see what kind of reaction I got by putting that Viola tint. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, that was Bahama Mama. You can see that's a little bit bluer. My apologies, it was Bahama Mama. More seagrass, a little bit of black. That's that mermaid. Warming it up, and I'm going to do that tool effect again. And that looks like some interference violet going down. And Bahama Mama going over the top. Now the Bahama Mama is a kind of a light, pretty Mediterranean blue. So it's very subtle with the mermaid and the aquamarine, but it does add dimension. So that area I know on top kind of bugged me. Here I did, I swiped it. It just felt like it needed a swipe in the same direction that the color was going. Cap of the tile at the end of this video. This next piece is a 16 by 20 canvas, and I'm featuring the Hot Lips tint in this one. I already have all my colors mixed. I'm just getting them coordinated. And there's that Hot Lips. It's a really hot rhodamine violet. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to lubricate and kind of cover the corners of my canvas with the Alumilite Black. This was more of a test of really seeing what the tints look like, how they react to the regular resin art interference in iridescent and metallic colors, and how the aluminite works with the two to see if I could get kind of lacing and patterns. And I guess I'm apologizing in advance because I started with swiping the color over the black as we do with the stone coat, and about halfway through I discovered I really like actually the black over the top of the colors, kind of like when they're doing paint pouring and they're doing a normal swipe, other than nothing has silicone in it. It's just that somehow the aluminite black reacts nicely going over the bit. You're going to find a lot of my pieces I like to do black corners with a center that's light. It didn't actually work for this piece because I ended up layering more and more paint. I know I'm kind of giving you a little spoiler in advance. But the reason why I'll do this on a lot of my pieces is colors going over the black give you one effect. But colors over an area that's white, they're brighter. So say you wanted to make the center or an area a focal point, you could leave that area white underneath and get some extra pop on your piece. So that's just kind of a fun fact tip. In this particular piece, I'm not sure if it really made a difference because, as you see, I kept layering color over it. That's that little silicone tool again. They come in a set, so you can get fat ones, skinny ones, some with the little teeth on them, but boy, they're handy for spreading resin. Okay, so this first color is aquamarine. Same color I used in the last video, but this one's purple sapphire. It's our reddish violet. And then the mermaid. What I did is I just decided not to use the seagrass in this piece, and I mixed up some purple sapphire. Here I decided to quickly mix some interference violet. I didn't have enough left, from that other piece. The whole point of the second piece was to not waste the resin, was to use up everything I had and mix up some hot lips, baby. So there's the interference violet being poured over the top, right on top of that mermaid, and in between the mermaid and the purple sapphire. And this is my attempt of swiping into the black, which is a neat effect, but not as exciting as it was later on when I was swiping the black into it. I don't know if it has anything to do with the tint reacting to it. Now that's hot lips. On this video, I'm noticing how red it looks. And it's a red violet though. It'll end up being almost a shocking pink in some areas depending upon what you put it over. So warm it slightly after the swipe, just a little bit, just to activate the resin. We're not cooking it. I have a friend out there I know who watches the videos, and she was wondering why her resin was bubbling and not level afterwards. And then she mentioned that the platypus end on the heat gun, her husband had to keep sanding off excess resin. I said, oh my goodness, why is there resin on the platypus end? And she was cooking the resin. So one thing I can say to everybody, when you see us warming the resin, we're just trying to get it warm enough so it glides. Look at what happened with that hot lips going over the top of the interference violet. You can see all those colors right through it. It's such a fun effect. What I'm swiping with is a little bit of Yupo paper that's been cut up in different shapes, and you can reuse it. Yupo paper is not cheap. It's a very nice plasticized paper used a lot for alcohol inks. Some people use it for watercolors, but because of the plastic coating, you can cut them up in different shapes and sizes and use them, and then just wipe them down with alcohol and save them. I use them over and over and over again. As you can see in the middle, I added some more clear resin there. I forgot to lubricate the center. I do like to lubricate my canvases so the paint glides. Yes, there is a hot spot on the one section on the canvas where the light is. I eventually do move it, but I'm apologizing right now. I didn't even notice it. That's the one thing about resin, it is so shiny. So there's that interference violet going over the top of those colors, and the aquamarine, and the purple sapphire, and the mermaid, and there's the hot lips. Now here's where I started changing things. I added a little bit of black to the bottom. And I think this is when I decided, okay, I'm not exactly thrilled with what happened with the first half. So let's see what happens if I swipe the other way. I'm not really blowing the color to blow it around like normal. I'm just getting it warm. I know it looks like I'm blowing to cover up that center, but and yeah, it looks like here I still swiped into it. Coming up here in any second is when I changed the game plan, because I just wasn't feeling it, especially the pattern. So that looks like some more of the mermaid. And this is when I first swiped the black into it. Now, I wished I had gotten a close-up for you, because right at this point, it took my breath away. And there's tiny, beautiful lacing that's starting to form in the middle of that swipe. You can see me pointed it out. I'm real excited at this point. How beautiful it changed. And right at this moment is when I said, okay, I'm going to change things up, see if I can't save this piece. And I'm starting to swipe the black into the color. Much nicer effects. Believe me, I'll be using that for using this technique for the next piece. There's some of your purple sapphire, some more of the interference violet, some of that hot lips, baby. And I put a little bit of black there on the bottom just for insurance. Didn't know how much was left from that original corner that I had applied it to. And oh wow, that one took my breath away. Really, really, these were the game changers right here. So that's when I just said, "Hey, I got to do this everywhere." I kind of got into a groove and didn't pay any attention to composition, any judgment. I just started saying, "Hey, this is fun. I like swiping the black into the color." More purple sapphire, more interference violet. Looks like I'm running low on that. I don't know if you noticed, but every time I swipe, I'm just kind of repurposing the resin that is swiped off and putting it back on a corner. And I've seen it on some pieces where I really enjoy the effect, and it's you're not wasting any of the resin. So at this point, it's like, okay, I really want to break this up. So I had mixed up some more interference violet. There's some the violet. There's the aquamarine. I know it's in that hot spot, but I realize it right at this point. As soon as I swipe it, that was Mermaid. That's some hot lips. That was some black. And right at this point, I went, oh no, what did I do? I've had that hot spot on the canvas all this time. Now, at this point, I've already decided this will probably be a layer one to something else, but I felt so free at this point, not judging it and just kind of getting lost in the fact that I could keep swiping patterns over the patterns over the patterns. Some more of that interference violet. And some of our famous hot lips. Now, see how much black I put down there? This was an oopsie that I had to fix. You're going to see in a minute how much too much black. I only need a little bit. And I got a little bit heavy handed because here when I swiped it, I went, oh no, what happened? So I started adding some interference violet. First I started putting something there, then I heated it. I thought, okay, well, I can add more color on top and I'll just swipe it the opposite direction. And actually, I kind of wish I hadn't swiped it because looking at the video here, I like the effect of just kind of drawing that paint in and letting it be. Maybe in another piece that would be a great type of effect. But I really wanted to fix this area that was too black. And let's look at actual segments that give us an idea of how these little rivers of color look. This is my first attempt at trying to do my own version of kind of an underwater thing, similar to I'm not sure this light's really making that much of a difference as far as the sparkle. We know it will when I'm just shooting straight from the iPhone. The iPhone's real good about that. But you always want to give people close-ups, the best close-ups you possibly can, so you can see the texture of this. It dried real nice. It's great. It's ready for like a second layer. It's interesting what the interference violet did with just a little bit of the Viola tint over it. Most of this was the Bahama Mama, which is, I think down here, some of this is the aquamarine, and then you can see the Bahama Mama go over, but because the colors are so similar, it's really subtle, even though it does add dimension to the work. So here's a raw close-up without the camera or my flashlight on it to show you how sparkly it is. So you can actually see the texture, what happened in the piece. Now let me get the second piece that we just did. By the way, here are those tiles that I had said in the video were kind of inspiration. I loved how the Bahama Mama and the Emerald City worked. All that turquoise is actually the tint and a little bit of bling it. Okay, so close up on this piece. I think I'll start at one end here. You can see the patterning from pushing or swiping that black Alumilite. The Alumilite goes over the color like acrylic pouring. We're usually pushing the black over the top of colors, other than you're just not adding silicone. It's just the Alumilite does react, okay? The actual color that looks like purple is the purple sapphire, and yet that area to the right here, you can see how that hot lips poured over the top is just intensified those colors. Yeah, even though the camera, I can do something similar to this way I can actually hold the piece and get it up real close. Let you guys see this. I realize the rest of the video has been done in voiceover, and I tried to cut and trim it down as much as I can. I really like the patterning when the Illuminite went over that mermaid there. See all those little moon rocky dots? Have no idea what created. It's pretty crazy. Loving the hot lips again down that center there where you see that beautiful lacing. And that little pop of the aquamarine coming off the hot lips pink and the interference violet. The composition on this thing, I kind of got lost. I think I got lost more in experimenting with the tints and what would happen with the swiping process. And instead of pulling the color over the black, which is what I started in the beginning, I prefer the look of putting the black over the color. Much more effects. So here we have the final pieces dried. I just did that close-up for you, but here they are at a distance. And I want to thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.